Hello, Sidequest. This is our weekly video game show here at Geekverse. I'm your host, the Traveler, Dylan Musk, and I have with me the keyed Kirklin Patzer. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing really good. Yeah, I had a good Monday, and I'm excited to talk some side quests with you.
Mm-hmm. How was your camping trip? I didn't ask you that.
It was really good. Yeah, I had a really great time. We had some great weather.
Nice.
Yeah, it was potential for rain on the weekend, and we got some rain, but I feel like it was kind of the best times we could have got it throughout the day. We went for a nice hike, and then as we were coming back, the rain was rolling in. But it never really lasted too long. It got pretty windy one of the nights there, but yeah, no, it was really nice. Like nice 18, 19 weather, nothing too hot. We hit up the dog beach, and Marco went for some nice swimming. It was a little bit too cold for any humans to really dive in there, but he sure had a blast, and yeah, it was good. First camping trip of the year, so I'm excited for more to come.
Very
Hopefully
nice,
we can tent together sometime here in the near future. I don't think I've ever gone camping with you.
When you said tent together, I thought you meant like physically be in a tent.
I mean that too. Why not? Let's do it.
That'd be so funny. Go camping, muds and shit. You guys could share a tent. Me and Kirkland, we got to do this.
Oh yeah,
but no, we
Marco
definitely
too.
should. I have a couple. I don't really have any booked that are like close to Kelowna, so
Yeah,
it'd be a
that's
bit of
fair.
a trek. But we should definitely plan one out because there's some good sites kind of midway between Kelowna and Vancouver, so that'd be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. One of our favorites is Kentucky Lane. That's definitely
Yes,
more
that
on the,
place is great. I love it.
It's more on the
Yeah.
Kelowna side than Vancouver side.
I will make the trek out there because it was really fun when I went there
Yeah,
recently.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah. But anyway, this is not a camping podcast. This is a video game podcast. Today we have a kind of a random smattering of topics, a couple surprise things, and then some games we've been playing, a little bit of news as well, but it was kind of a slower news week. We're right on the cusp of it, though, because right now it's, what is it going to be? May 28th when this episode comes out. June 9th, 10th, that's when a bunch of the showcases and things are happening. So we really don't have much time before it really gets rolling here. Next week's episode is going to be the review for Hellblade 2. Me and Travis are playing through that right now. So look forward to that. And yeah, other shout outs here. Join the Discord, join the Patreon to get episodes early and ad free. Last week we did a review of Furiosa. You guys recently did a review of Apes, and then the rankings coming out this week.
Mm-hmm.
My game is out. You can go check it out. Potion Problems
Hell
on
yeah.
Steam now, which is very exciting. And let me know what you think. Leave a review. Help me get those reviews on Steam. It helps build the circulation of it. Yeah, any shout outs from your end of the woods?
Nothing really yet. I think you got it all. June is, fast approaching. That's a busy month for us. We got a lot of TV shows. Not so much movies, but mostly like TV shows, and
Right.
of course the retros are carrying on. And yeah, not sure if you mentioned it, but Alien. That's the one. We're
Yes,
doing
that's a
right
good
now.
shout out.
Yeah,
Patreon,
so
good place to go now to get those episodes nice and early as we do that. Many
Hell yeah.
episodes that one's going to be.
Yeah.
The movies, a couple bonus things, the
verses.
game, one of the games as well. So yeah, should be a good time.
Yeah, I forgot about the game. I'll see if I got the courage to jump on there.
I think me and Taylor are for sure on it. Travis is a maybe. So you don't need to, but it would be great to have you along for the ride.
If I'm gonna join, I'm not gonna say anything until like the day of. I'll just slide into
Oh,
the room.
great.
And you guys are gonna.
I love that for
just
planning
yeah.
purposes.
I know that you love your planning. I like to generate some chaos here and there.
Yeah. Another thing I love is showing you the things that I buy that I think are cool. And I
Ooh,
finally,
okay.
I told you about this, but it finally came in, is my physical version of Sea of Stars.
Oh
Um,
man, that's gorgeous.
Came with this it came with this case that you can just like put around the Switch version of it. It's
yeah.
not like a different insert, but it's like, just like a little cardboard case, but it looks really nice. You got like the inside there and all that.
That's beautiful.
It came with a lot of stuff. There's all these stickers for all these different characters.
Oh,
There's one
that's
sheet I'm not
awesome.
showing you because it spoils a character that you probably
Okay.
haven't unlocked yet. But
Yeah.
you got all the classics in there, the main
Nice.
squad and all that. A very, very detailed instruction booklet that is like really fun to look through and just see like all the different buttons and different characters and explain all the different
that's so
mechanics.
sweet.
There's even like a notepad section, which is fun.
Very reminiscent of the way games used to be. When they would
Mhm.
come with like their actual full instruction booklet.
Yeah, I miss those. Those had a special
Yeah.
charm to them. And then a little like world map.
Oh, that's sweet.
And then on the other end is like a freaking Where's Waldo
Holy
type thing
moly.
with all the characters. Someone, and I swear, I think I did like almost 100% in that game. There are a couple characters on here I don't recognize, so I don't know if there's more I've yet to do. I know there's DLC coming, so I don't know if it's like they put them in there kind of forward planning. But yeah, very happy this finally came in. It looks really great. I'm excited to put those stickers all over some things.
The regular cover is very much like JRPG standard. I feel like it reminds me of just so many other games that have gone like that. Chrono Trigger,
yes,
like
definitely.
all those different titles. But the sleeve, that is something in and of itself.
I know,
I think that's truly beautiful.
Because I think it's like my favorite of the key art from Sea of Stars is like that very blue purple, which is very fitting for the characters.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it looks really nice. And you has like the name on the side there too, so you still know what it is.
So gorgeous. Makes me feel just so terrible. I haven't jumped back into that game in a long time.
That's why I brought it up to you know, put the guilt in the back of your head to force you. I have like a notepad of spoiler notes that I want to talk to you about whenever you get to it.
Okay.
So I'm not deleting that note. I'll keep it there until the time comes, no matter how long it takes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was cool. And then I also want to tell you about this. You know, Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, one of your favorite games of all time, Morrowind, one of mine. I love the whole series. And I feel like I had a pretty good knowledge. I've played like all the spin-offs to my knowledge. But Kirklin, I just realized that there's this whole sub-series called the Elder Scrolls Travels. And there's 4 of these games. Have you ever heard of these?
Heck? I have never heard of this.
Right? I had never heard of these until like 2 weeks ago, just randomly. But they are essentially a series of mobile games. Like there's 4 of them. The first 2, one's called Stormhold, the other one's called Dawnstar. And these like look pretty much like identical to like the original first 2 Elder Scrolls games, like really old school, like really kind of 2D art. And it looks like you're just dungeon crawling. You play this on like old flip phones or something. Like I don't even know how it would work, but like it's very rudimentary. And then there's another one after that came out called Shadow Key, and that one has like a bit more of a 3D effect going on, and it actually looks really cool. And I was watching some footage of Shadow Key. I was like, man, I want to go play this. Like it still looks old and dated, and because it was on like a cell phone before cell phones were like, you know, powerful gaming machines, I'm sure it's super janky, but I definitely want to go check it out. And then what blew my mind too is apparently when Oblivion came out, they released a phone game as well. Of Oblivion, and it's like a top-down like isometric looking thing. I'm sure it's
I'm
awful.
looking at it right now.
Yeah, but like it's just
wild.
so cool that it exists. And I actually love the art style for it, and like the kind of color palette is really wild. So I'm just so curious where it falls into like the story, and like the scale and scope of it is really crazy. So yeah, it's crazy. There's like this whole like realm of Elder Scrolls games that I never heard of, because obviously there was a card game, there's Elder Scrolls Online. There's Blades. There's like all these spin-offs, but yeah, these ones completely went under the radar for me. I don't know if I ever had a device that could play them when they first came out. I'm not sure, but crazy, just hidden part of the history of the series.
No kidding, especially that it's like the same Oblivion title. Like it's not like some like deviation. So therefore, I would imagine it follows the same story. And it's just so funny looking at this one image where it shows it on the flip phone. You probably saw it. Where it's just like, like what was going through their minds were like, yeah, we're going to target this audience for the flip phone users. This is going to be really big for our sales. That's so strange.
I know, like Elder Scrolls has always been to me the pinnacle of immersion in games.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is like the least immersive experience of all time, playing on this like 2-inch by 2-inch screen or whatever it would be with like janky graphics, probably terribly balanced. I don't know who developed it, but I don't think Bethesda had any hand in making it. They more just like licensed it out for some phone company to make, I suppose. But in that research, I also found that there originally, and they announced this was at E3, there was footage, and it was just like canceled later on, was that Oblivion was going to come to PSP back in the day.
Really?
I'm shocked that I never heard about that, because I feel like, I guess I didn't play Oblivion right when it came out, just because I was a little behind on the tech. I didn't have a 360 when that game first came out. Got it down the line. So I guess that's maybe how it passed me up, but like, I feel like that's something I would have bought a PSP back in the day just for that game had it happened. And obviously now we have Skyrim on the Switch, so you have that portability of it. But yeah, I'm guessing there was tech issues with it, and I think it was like a smaller game as well. Like it wasn't the full open world. I think it was more like smaller levels, probably more of a dungeon crawler sort of thing. But even then, I probably would have bought a PSP back in the day with my meek savings just to access that thing on the go, because it looks pretty good, and like there's files that people have ripped, so it's up online. Like you can play it. Like I could play it through an emulator, I guess, if I want to. But it's crazy that like happened. I just totally, I guess it didn't happen. It got canceled, but the fact that it was announced, it was an official thing. They'd planned it for a long time. It's pretty crazy. Another just part of Elder Scrolls history that completely missing from my brain there.
No, yeah, I'd never heard of that before as well. I mean, for all of this news is brand new to me, which is funny because it's not new news, right? Like this is really old stuff. That's
Relics.
Yeah, exactly. And especially with the PSP, that's hilarious because I actually owned a PSP for the good solid 7 days or so. It's a funny little period of my gaming history where a buddy of mine had a PSP and he was just like telling me about it, and I got like super stoked. So of course I just like begged my mom to take me to Walmart, spent like all the money I had to get this PSP, and I got a certain God of War game. I don't know what it was, but
Chains of Olympus maybe. I don't
yeah,
even
probably
know.
it was whatever one was on PSP. And I bought it and I was playing the hell out of it, and that was in that time when you needed to buy like an SD to like actually save. Like there was no built-in SD at all, which I don't know if I just didn't do the research to find that out, but I never would turn off the PSP to just save my progress. That was my strategy. So I'd like play it on the city bus going to school, and then just like keep it on in my backpack throughout the day.
Yeah.
Eventually it just died and I lost all my progress, and I'm like, I can't do this. My mom returned it to Walmart for me. I just got my money back without actually getting like SD card. Just completely threw in the towel and just got rid of it. But yeah, that was like,
why'd you throw in the towel? I'm trying to piece two and two together. I know it died, but like you could have just got an SD card, right? You just weren't into it. You didn't like the feel of it or something.
I'm trying to remember like that probably would have been around the time that I was buying a PS3 as well. So maybe it was like, well, like I could get the SD card here.
Yeah, maybe your parents were like, you can have one of the other kids.
Exactly. Yeah, like it might have been one of those things. But yeah, like probably just like throwing all my money on it too. It's like, okay, maybe that wasn't the best idea. You know, back then you only had so much money from.
Yeah.
I don't even know if I had a job.
PS3 was probably a better investment at the time.
Oh, 100%. I got way more hours of enjoyment. I mean, that was like the peak MW2 era too. So I wouldn't have had that if I didn't, swap in the PSP for the PS3. But yeah, it was a funny little chapter of my gaming career. I was a handheld PSP owner for 5 days or so. I just remember being like shocked that my mom was just able to like return that to Walmart, and it was just completely fine because like I had it for like 5 days and like didn't have a case for it or anything. Like I just had it.
Yeah.
But
I wonder, do you think there was a case where it must have been a case where just certain games needed more of that storage space? Because I remember that was a thing with GameCube as well. Like certain games, like Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
I think Sims comes to mind. Like those were games that had to be sold with a memory card because they required more space than like the one that the console came with. So like even if you deleted everything off your memory card, it still wouldn't be able to like make a save file for those games. Is that like the case maybe with God of War? If so, like you would think that they would like sell the game with that, but maybe that was just a PSP issue in general. I like used it, but I never owned it myself, so I would never really got in the weeds of that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I can't quite remember what all the details were around it, but yeah, I just like I do remember playing through the beginning like 3 or 4 times. So like it must have reset a few times there, and then yeah, it was just. I mean, same sort of thing happened when I first got my GameCube as well. Like I got it and I didn't have a memory card at the time.
Oh yeah.
So like I remember playing. I think I had like Spider-Man Unleashed or something, and just like played it. Kept it on, I think I also had Super Mario Sunshine. Like I had a couple games that I just didn't have a memory card. Or I think what happened is I was in Alberta visiting family when I bought it, and then I didn't have a memory card till like I came back or something along those lines. But yeah, it was memory cards, man. I mean, now it's a similar issue where I have like a terabyte hard drive or whatever it is, and I still can't even play Call of Duty because it takes up like a quarter of the memory just for one free to play game, which is crazy. But
no, it's funny that things like that, like the memory cards, once we're past the console generation where we don't really need those anymore, after a while you kind of get nostalgic for it. Like, oh, it was fun to have memory cards. But now, like with my Switch, I'm at a point now where like I need to switch my SD cards out to play whatever game I want in that moment, and it is so annoying. Plus, there's always like updates for these games too. And like if you have like a physical game in your Switch, no matter what SD card you put in, it'll just automatically start downloading all the games on it. So specifically in the case like Metal Gear Solid, the collection that I've been playing through recently, where that has like 6 or 7 things on it that are all technically like different Switch like widgets, like they're all their own little icon. So whenever I like switch my cards out, it just starts downloading all these Metal Gear Solid games, and I'm like, I'm doing this to save space. So it's just obviously not built for that. these days anymore. But I don't know. I did like the GameCube system of it. It seemed to always work well for me. But
Yeah.
I much prefer it these days. Where I mean, I guess you can still do that with external hard drives, but I don't know, just with the digital nature of games.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like you always have room for your save files. It's more like the room to have the games on your hard drive, right?
Oh, 100%. And like, it's funny just thinking back of first time I like went over to a friend's house and they had like 2 memory cards in their GameCube. It's like, whoa, this guy's rich. Like memory cards were not cheap as well. Like even PS1 era, PS2, like memory cards were a thing then. And like even recently, this is peak COVID time when I was off for like a week because I had COVID. I just played through Wind Waker. That was my like dedication. I just
Nice.
like 3 days straight. I just played Wind Waker and that was it. Just being sick at home and just like looking at because I have my same GameCube with the same memory card. Just seeing like my old save files of like Tony Hawk's Underground
Yes,
or
yeah.
like those old titles and just seeing like the last time I like the save data. It's just like this is kind of cool. It's like a little time capsule sort of thing.
Definitely.
These old saves. So it's
I
funny
probably have
seeing
an
those.
old Animal Crossing save on there. I should go back and visit my
Yeah.
island from 15 years ago.
I think
It's
Shay
just
does actually.
completely disheveled. There's no one living in the town, just covered in weeds.
Because like for Super Mario Double Dash, Super Mario Kart Double Dash, that was like Shay's game, and like her memory card is in there because she had like all the save data on there. And yeah,
Right.
there's some old Animal Crossing saves we've seen on there. And it's funny too, just seeing like a certain game that I like rented at a Blockbuster, and like I just rented it, but I still have that save data. I'm like, I'm never deleting that. That's just a little memory for me.
Yeah, I feel like for me, it's always like, gotta have that melee save, gotta have.
Yeah.
I keep all my Fire Emblem ones, Path of Radiance. I still have
Oh,
those
yeah.
saves. Definitely Tony Hawk's Underground. Then other ones get lost to time, or like those Animal Crossing ones. Like, eventually I would delete it because I wanted, like, that was a big juicy memory card, and I wanted
Yeah.
room on it. So I delete it for other stuff, and being able to copy them, or like getting a friend's save is like, that's a big thing in like Melee, because people have like modded versions of the game that has different unlocks and stuff, and so
Right.
you kind of transfer that between people at tournaments, which is kind of a fun thing that still happens in the modern day just because of how the tech works of it.
Right.
There's something special about that era and time, but I like that
Yeah.
I don't have to think about saves anymore. And Steam is really good about cloud saves, and like
Oh yeah.
wherever I'm playing, it has my saves. That's much better, much more convenient these days.
Oh, absolutely. It's so convenient. Like I remember just building my computer, which is funny. I always talk about how it's like on its last legs now, but just like thinking if I needed to get like a CD-ROM, I mean, like maybe I don't need one actually. And now that's just such a thing of the past. Like no one has CDs or anything like that. Just the way that technology.
I'm the last bastion. I think I do still have one on my
yeah?
computer here, but when I do upgrade, I'm probably gonna get a new computer this year, and
Nice.
not gonna get a disk drive for it. Don't need that
Yeah.
anymore. Yeah, time's officially come.
You can always get
I-
an external. You can always get an external
true.
CD-ROM if you
Yeah.
have those old discs still laying around.
All of that, we were talking about these Elder Scrolls Travels games. I wanted to bring up that, like, I forget if I've mentioned to you or if we talked about it, but like the Elder Scrolls Castles is a game that's coming out at some point, like this year or next year, and that's like a phone game. I'd compare it's like Fallout Shelter, but for Elder Scrolls essentially, where you're building and like managing a castle. I think it's out in like some region now, like maybe in Europe they're doing like testing early versions of it. But yeah, I think it's been like a bit since we've had a mobile game. Like there was Blades, which was also on consoles or at least on Switch. The card game must have been on phones, I would imagine. Maybe it wasn't, and maybe that's why it tanked. I don't really even remember. But yeah, I feel like it's been a while since Elder Scrolls has done a phone game. So I'm excited for that one just because Fallout Shelter was cool and it's still getting support. Like they added characters from the show, they're still adding stuff to it. And so I think I kind of want something like that with Elder Scrolls, that I can just quickly jump in and get a taste.
Yeah.
Whereas, with Morrowind or Oblivion or Skyrim, if I'm jumping in there, like, I don't know, usually I'm like getting sunk into it again, but it's nice to just have
Yeah.
something you can just kind of check in on here and there.
No, yeah, absolutely. That'd be fantastic. I must have known about this Elder Scrolls Castle and just forgotten about it. But just like looking at it, I don't know what it is, but just the aesthetic just does not scream Elder Scrolls to me. Maybe it's just because I'm so used to like these recent game engines that they've had, where, I mean, it's a very different game, obviously. But
yeah, you're right.
It
This
just
kind of
seems a
looks
lot
like
cartoony.
League of Legends or something.
Yeah. So definitely more like an animated type art style, which
Yeah,
like I don't know.
Elder Scrolls is kind of weird in that way. Like even if you just look at the different games, like Arena and Daggerfall, they kind of have a similar look to them. Morrowind is like very kind of washed out in its color, but it still has a lot of like crazy alien-y sort of things to it. And then Oblivion's more like really bright, vibrant fantasy. And then Skyrim once again is kind of like dreary, but a very different dreary than Morrowind. Also, all sorts of different areas. But even with that, I still think there is some cohesion to the visual style. Even like Elder Scrolls Online feels like it fits that mold very well.
100%.
But yeah, when I look at this, you're right. It doesn't really call out to me with the Elder Scrolls visuals. So I don't know. Maybe when it's officially out or finished, maybe it'll look a bit different. But I don't know. Yeah, you're right. maybe that won't fill that Elder Scrolls itch for me because it won't even really look at like it that much. We'll see.
It's funny that you mentioned Fallout Shelter though, because I completely forgot about that. Even though like I did dabble in a bit of it when. Because that was when Fallout 4 got announced, right? That's when that was out.
Yeah, I'm trying to. It might have come out like a couple months beforehand. Like I think maybe what happened is that June Direct, they shadow dropped Shelter, and then the game came out in the fall. So they're kind of like it was kind of used as a marketing tool for Fallout 4, I believe.
Right.
Yeah.
But no, just that idea of like like you said, just like a phone game that you could return to without too much commitment. Like these main titles really require, I alluded to that I've been dabbling in a certain Bethesda game really that definitely takes up a lot of time. But to just have something kind of like Marvel Snap where you can just pick up and go and never really not feel the need to like stay committed, even if there is like a certain battle pass that you want to participate in. Like you don't really have to grind for it to enjoy. Just nice little. I was gonna say like slice of life game, but it's not really. It's more so you're just taking a slice out of your life to pick it up and just have some fun.
Yeah, I guess it kind of depends on your relationship with it. But you just mentioned 2 games that I know you want to talk about today. So yeah, in whatever order you wish. Yeah, tell me about what you've been playing lately.
Yeah, I'll quickly start off with Marvel Snap. More so just because, last time I was talking to you, that was a great discussion, by the way, that we had on Marvel Snap.
We got to do that again soon because the June's already around the corner. So we'll do the next month preview or something. Yeah,
no, that'd be fantastic because I was going really hard after we talked. More so just because you had kind of got me pumped on certain strategies that I could use with my current cards, and I think that was probably right before I acquired Ultron, and then I just like made like a heavy Ultron deck.
Right.
I've like only been using that deck, and it got to the point where like I was having a lot of success with it. I think I grind like my peak rank, which is like platinum era, which like I don't think I'd ever gotten over gold before. I wasn't really like going hard in the past. I was mostly just like trying out different decks. But this one I was like, well, this deck is just amazing, and I just keep winning, so let's just keep going. And now I'm encountering things that I just don't have, that I just getting completely bopped by. Like there's certain instances where I'm like, I got this guy. It's so easy. And then he plays like a Arnim Zola, and it's just like, well, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? Like, I can't counter this. I need like who is it that is it Cosmo that disables on reveals? Like, I need to like rethink my counters in a certain aspect. And it's also like I've played this deck so much that I'm not necessarily bored of it, but I just kind of want to try something new. Haven't been acquiring too many like fun, cool cards, so I've been forced to make some. Just, I don't know, trial decks with the cards that I do have, and it hasn't really like hit too much where I've like found that like almost eureka deck where I'm just like obsessed with the game again. I mostly was just grinding for the keys because after we were talking about that, and now my name suggests I'm the keyed. I'm holding on 3 keys right now.
Nice.
I am ready.
Okay, yeah.
I'm ready for someone to drop in. I got a little bit excited when I saw Black Knight on there because that was a card that I have been wanting to get for a while. But I was like, Namora.
I know. I had the same train of thought. Where I was like, I really do want Black Knight. Don't really care about Namora, so I'm gonna wait.
Yeah, and Scar I think is the other one on there right now, and it's like,
I have him already.
Yeah, like it's a good card, and like all of them are decent cards that I don't have, but they're just not really screaming excitement for me right now. So I'm just kind of hibernating.
Scar's a bit underwhelming too, so I don't think I think it was a good call to wait until you have 4 and then start thinking about things more seriously.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like I'm still playing like every day just to jump in those little daily missions or challenges and just stay active on it, not going so hard like I was going in the early months. And it's kind of like my ebb and flow with the game too, where I do just get those obsessive periods where I am just like constantly, it's like, oh, I've done all my dailies, like come on, I need more missions here, I need to get some more currencies. But no, I'm still having lots of fun with it, and I'm looking forward to next month to see what those what that.
Yeah, a
month
couple of the
brings.
new cards look pretty fun. It's the Eternals month, which I know you're not an Eternals fan, but
Give me
some of
some
the card
good cards, though.
abilities are
Yeah.
pretty nice. So yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. So that's where I'm at right now. I'm holding on to 3 keys, and
Love
I
it.
think the next one is kind of on the horizon. But
good stuff.
yeah, that's where I'm at on Marvel Snap. And then my other big game that I've been jumping into pretty much 100% because, Shay and I have been going through the show of Fallout. And
Yes. Okay.
we pretty slowly we're going through it. Like, I think we have one more episode, which we might watch, after this episode that I record with you. And
Nice.
been really liking the show. But I'm not really here to talk about the show. I'm here to talk about jump back into Fallout 4. And
Okay. Yeah.
yeah, I have not played this game since around the time that we did the review, which is like early
Yeah. One of the
podcast
first
days.
episodes I feel like of the podcast.
Yeah, and man, what a great game that is. Like I wasn't a super Fallout fan. Like I remember I think Fallout 3 was a game that I was like really obsessed with, but one that I never had. Like I just like when I found out what it was, I was just like watching YouTube to like walkthroughs of it, or maybe had seen it at a friend's house, and just like the idea of it was blowing my mind. At that time I probably didn't put 2 and 2 together. They're both Bethesda, and it's like Elder Scrolls and then Fallout, and that's just probably why they're in the same vein of games that I really loved, because I had played a little bit of Oblivion back in the day, but that was kind of it. And again, another title that I just played at a cousin's house or something. So it was like a game that I got an appetizer for, but I never got the full course. So it was just like I was always longing for it, always wanting it, and never got the chance to really play it until later in life. So I never played Fallout New Vegas. Probably watched a friend play it a little bit at then, but I mean, yeah, way back in the day, we did a review for Fallout 4, and I absolutely loved it initially. And there's a lot of that game that I just had never really done. Like, I hadn't done any of the DLCs or anything like that. I have the game. I think I originally bought it on PS4, and I don't know if it's because it's in my games catalog or whatever, but I just had like a free PS5 upgrade, which was kind of news to me. So that was nice. And I mean, the game runs nice and smooth and looks great, and which is fantastic. But in that version, I also have like all the DLCs, which was kind of surprising to me. Like I think it's like Nuka. What is it?
Nuka World, and then
Nuka World,
Far Harbor.
Far Harbor was the big one I remember you telling me about, and haven't gotten there yet on my current playthrough. I'm kind of just leveling up my character in kind of a unique way from where I played in the past. It's funny. I don't know if you know about the play style for like Elder Scrolls games, but like stealth archers is just like the scumbag class in my opinion, which I'm guilty of, because I've definitely played a lot of stealth archers where it's just a really easy way to play the game. You're just,
I gotta say, I feel like I haven't heard the angle of it being the scumbag class. I thought it's more just like that's what everyone likes to do because it's fun and like it is powerful. But yeah. The scumbag angle's a new one. That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, shouts out to my buddy Carson. He's the one that first told me about stealth archers, which is funny because he was telling me about it while I was playing that playthrough, like on a certain sky. This is probably like back in high school or something. But yeah, he was telling me about it. I'm like, oh yeah, like what about them? He's just like, everybody that they just jump in there, they just make a stealth archer. They're not really experiencing the game like you should. Just trying to. And I'm like, damn, you just like opened my eyes on maybe how I should change those
critical hits, man. I need them. There's nothing more satisfying than just sniping an enemy and the ragdoll of them just flying across the room. It's very true. Janky ways.
There's reasons why people are attracted to that play style. I think more so than just the efficiency of it, because it is it is very effective, and there's no bows and arrows in Fallout, at least to my knowledge, but you can definitely make a similar play style where you're doing stealth and like snipers, and that's pretty much my first playthrough that I did on Fallout 4. But this time around, I'm really trying to change it up. I'm trying to like really get creative with my perks. I'm really focusing like most of my perks in ways to access things that like maybe hacking or pickpocketing, or not pocket, lockpicking, like those ones, just so I'm able to access everything in the world. And then really going hard on like the gun mods, the armor upgrades, like the science ones, just like things that I can really manipulate my own weaponry. And it's been really fun, like focusing stats on like explosives and stuff. I felt like first time I played the game, I probably threw like one grenade or something. Like I just never really used that mechanic, but just like efficiency of using like a pulse grenade against synths. Like I didn't even know those were really
Mm.
in the game until this current playthrough, and they are so good. Just like an EMP on these robots, like it works exactly how you'd want it to, and
Hell yeah.
just other things like that. Just now I'm starting to like get my strength up so that I can get more of like the armor perks and really just get statted up, because I want to be able to make some really buffed up like melee weapons, because melee weapons is not something I ever really like thought of going into in a Fallout game, just because it is so ranged, like there's guns in it and everything. But it can be very satisfying from a few videos I've seen online of just people like max melee stats. And
You're reminding me of one of my most memorable Fallout New Vegas runs. And this is when I had played the game multiple times. So now I'm like, okay, what kind of weirdo build can I do now? And the build was just, melee weapons and explosives. So no guns whatsoever. And just having like, okay, I have a range option with the explosives, but usually I'm just using that to like, I don't know, even just a ton of landmines to cheese people a bit, and then getting like down and dirty with the melee weapons. That was a very fun, very fun build to use. And yeah, I don't know. That's just one of the favorite parts about going back to those games. There's just so much variety to the weapons and all the other things too. Like there's so many skill sets outside of just combat stuff too.
Oh, 100%. And like just the because like those games are really just playgrounds. Like with how nutty some of the just the big explosive guns that you can get, or just like the more sciencey ones. Like there is a lot of guns in that game that I just never really even accessed in my first playthrough. Like I think I just got really comfortable in like I was probably just using like a certain handgun and then like rifles. Like that's probably all I was really using on like my first playthrough of the game. And now like I'm really trying to go into like going into it, I was like my role play aspect that I was bringing to the game is just like a really heavy sciencey type character. So like of course that's what influenced all like the hacking and like just like tweaking out my gun mods and stuff like that. And then once I've started to level up a little bit more, it's like, man, this can be like incredibly strong if you are able to get some of these science mods and some of these guns, and really just spending time like on the workshop table. Even like the chems that you can make can really buff your character like quite strong, especially if you get a few perks in it. So just things like that, I think it's making me look at the game entirely different from what I kind of saw it before. And it's been refreshing jumping back to it, just because it had been so long since I played. I mean, like it's damn well been close to a decade now since that game came out, which is pretty wild to think about. But no, it's been really fun, and just playing it. Like I remember the main story, but there's still a lot of side quests and stuff that I hadn't gone through that I'm excited to. Like the what is it? The Far Coast, that one. I'm really excited.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about, because I remember when that DLC came out, which again, this is like early podcast. You tell me about it, and it was just it sounds
Nuka World.
Exciting.
I mean, as it sounds like, it really is just an amusement park where there's just like tons of combat trials, and it's like a fun setting. But yeah, there isn't like the story element of it isn't that cool. But like Far Harbor introduced a lot of really interesting stuff lore wise, and like things that tie into certain things in experience in the main game. So it's a good one. What are you doing for like, are you going down any certain faction stuff right now? Are you doing more side quests and exploring? What's your play style right now?
So for this one, like I have a new character from my previous one. I think I had the option to like bring in my previous save data just because I had it on PS4, but I was like, I'm just gonna start fresh. And I think I did like I have Valentine, like I met him, and that's kind of like where I was at in the main story. And then now, what have I been doing? Not the Brotherhood faction. I think I kind of made the decision going into it that I'm just going to go like full Institute on this playthrough, because I don't think I was with them the first time. Spoilers for how that game goes. You kind of choose what faction you are for like the main story, or at least the ending of it. But that's what I was thinking about going into from the get-go, but I haven't really gotten to that point in the main story yet to really make those decisions. But no, I've been kind of just like not necessarily free roaming, but doing a lot of the what are they called? The Minutemen, like settlement fact. I'm not building the settlements, but just really like going out and like saving them. And I just I just found it was a nice way to kind of get all over the Commonwealth, because they do send you at all these various places to get these settlements up and running. So I'll go here and there, and then on the route I'll just find like a random store that I'll go into, and then just like I don't know, just exploring it. And it's kind of a way that I've like when I do new runs on Skyrim, for example, like because I have played that game so many times, I kind of have like a set role play element to like a certain playthrough and like a lot of exploring, no fast travel or anything like that. And that's what I'm doing more so on this. Like I'll have, because of a certain quest, I'll have an objective, and then it's like, hey, how can I get there in a creative sense? And then I'll get there, and then of course get sidetracked on like meeting like a certain character that brings me on a side quest, or maybe I'll go into a store and just get one shot by like a really high level like monster I wasn't expecting. It's like, oh wow, okay, I guess I can't go into there, but then I'll just kind of keep exploring in a certain area. So I've kind of just been wandering, and it's funny because like as I was mentioning, like I kind of have a set roleplay strategy, but then I just totally get like sidetracked and deviated off. But so I haven't really been going down any like major storylines yet. What was the most recent one I did? It was I think my most recent one I did was actually like the main story one with Valentine, when you are taking on Kellogg. Like that was my most recent mission, and then I was just doing tasks here and there in Diamond City, which is just such a great city. I completely forgot about all the certain characters in there. So yeah, no, I'm just looking forward to just wandering and boosting up my character and really just getting maybe overpowered with certain perks that I can make my character. And I feel like I never really truly understood the full potential of what you can do when you like upgrade your weapons and stuff and like really boost up those perks. Like I think I had like a certain shotgun that I just like improved to the max stat, and it went from like 61 damage to like 121, and I'm like, wow, I just doubled my damage just from like one simple upgrade. So I can't wait to see what it is when I'm like max level on the certain ranked like perks for the gun mods, or whatever the perks are called there. So I'm having lots of fun with this playthrough, and I'm excited to kind of give you an update there once I've boosted up my character a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I remember I really enjoyed the customization aspect of that game. I think that was like when the game came out, maybe one of the biggest things that stood out to me, especially as like an Elder Scrolls fan too, where they're usually is like somewhat limited. Like you can maybe do an enchantment or something like that, but just with the guns and the visuals too, of putting all sorts of weird wonky things on it, I think it like fed really well back into the exploration too, where you're like, okay, I'm looking for like certain objects in the world because they break down into like different parts of like, oh, maybe it's got screws and adhesive in it, and I need that for the certain part. So like you're kind of looking out for other things in the world too in a more meaningful way. And then obviously the armory has that same sort of customization to it. So that was like definitely one of the biggest improvements I think in the formula, like from either of their series at that time.
Oh, 100%. And like I think seeing stuff like that, whether it's the layered armor system where you have like shoulders, it's not just like iron armor. It's not just like one thing that's everything. Like those aspects that they brought into those games, or the customization with the guns. Obviously, if you're translating that to like Elder Scrolls, you probably can't tweak out, like you can't put a red dot on a longsword, for example, but like
I'm sure you can with mods, to be honest. But
yeah, that's true. But like you could still kind of customize it in some aspects. So I'm really hopeful that they translate some of those systems into the next Elder Scrolls game, which would be really exciting.
I would love to see more of customization like that.
Like,
that'd be cool.
Was it Oblivion that they had so you could like make spells? Am I?
Yeah. Morrowind and Oblivion had the ability to make spells.
Oh,
and
stuff like
Morrowind
that,
too had like each pauldron was an armor. You had bracer armor. You had like your chest, your greaves, boots, helmets. You had like so much like more. So in that way, you could customize it a little bit more, and you could have like enchantments on each of those things, so you could do some crazy stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, the spell making was definitely a big removal that they had in Skyrim, and it's something I hope that they would bring back. I don't know if they would. I feel like Bethesda's not a big company to go back on things. Like usually, once they make some change, they keep going in that like one direction, but I don't know. I'd like to be proven wrong.
That's like my biggest fear about the leveling system, I think, because I think initially I loved the idea of what they did with Skyrim, just because I was a very indecisive maker of my characters. I'm like, am I gonna want to be an archer in 20 levels? Like I don't know. Like I like the freedom of it, but now that I've just played so much of them, like now when I play that game and I go back, I like make a character and like self nerf in that aspect. Like if I'm level 47, I'm a level 47 archer, or like whatever my playthrough is, or like just a two-handed user. Like that's all my focus is on it. I understand why they bring it in, and of course you can always make the argument, well, it's like, well, you can just do what I do and just self-limit yourself, but it's more so them giving the tools. But I think there's a certain specialness. That's not really a word. Just a certain je ne sais quoi about when they have those like old school RPG elements in their games. And
how do you feel about the perk system in Fallout 4 now? Then, like almost 10 years later, how are you thinking about that system with the putting the stars and the little chart there?
Yeah, I was a lot more down for it back then, and I I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I felt like you were pretty against it, like initially, just for how you unlock things, and I definitely feel that way. Like, again, just comparing it to Skyrim, like if I come across a master lock, why can't I try and pick that master lock and just like get lucky? Now it's just like can't crack that lock. That's too tough. Or like whatever your character says whenever you come across those, and it's like, okay, even if I save up my perk points and I want to max that out, I can't do it until I'm like level 14 or like whatever it might be, level 22 to get those master locks. So I really don't like those aspects to it. And also just, okay, or as I was mentioning to you, like I've been trying to level up like my armor level or my whatever the perk one is for melee weapons. I can't get that unless I have certain strength stats, which I kind of forgot about. So when I was like first making my character, I'm like, oh yeah, let's do like 2 in strength, like 8 in perception, and like you kind of like, I wish I had the chart there when I was making that, so then I knew which perks I wanted to get first. Where it's a little bit annoying, just how it goes.
Bethesda games have never really had a respec in the way that a lot of other RPGs kind of have these days, outside of like mods and stuff. But yeah, I mean, I've always been hard on like Skyrim's RPG elements, just because like I'm a purist, I've played so much Morrowind and Oblivion, but like it is a system that I can look at now and be like, yeah, there are a ton of improvements it made from Oblivion and Morrowind, which like, I don't know, there is more fun to like some of this perk system, but in other ways it's a little bit limited, or they took out certain skill types from those games. But Fallout is like, no, Fallout 4 was just worse than Fallout 3 in every way for me. Like there isn't really like a shining light of how it could be better. Like there's other things in the game, of course, that are huge improvements, but I feel like the RPG element of it is significantly worse. And then 76, I didn't really like what they were doing there either. So yeah, I don't know what the future of that would look like, but I'm hopeful that like to some extent, like Elder Scrolls and Fallout stay in their own lane in terms of RPG mechanics. So I'm sure the next Elder Scrolls is still going to have a really good system. Yeah. I hope, even if it's just like a little bit, like even if it's very close to Skyrim, or just a couple minor tweaks, I think I'd be fine with that.
I absolutely love the way that you go to your perk tree, at least in Skyrim, when you just look to the stars and then they just come up with the constellations. That is like, that is chef's kiss. Very I like cool. the look of the chart, I think, in Fallout 4, but nothing will beat that, the astrological symbols and all that. And like that's something that they've had at least since Morrowind, right? Like just like the different star signs, like when you're making your character there, it's like you're born.
Probably even before Morrowind. I can't remember. Yeah. Just because I haven't played Daggerfall as much, but
I wanted to ask you, how did the perk system work in Fallout 3? Because I can't remember what it was like. Like obviously you had the same, I think it's called the Special is the acronym, but like was there like Gun Maniac or whatever the hell they're called, like the set perks?
I'm trying to remember how much Fallout 4 removed, because that's definitely a thing with Elder Scrolls. You look at like how many just individual skills there are in like Daggerfall, and like I'm making up numbers here, but it's like 60, and then Morrowind has like 45, and then Oblivion has like 30, and then Skyrim has like 15 or something. They just kind of simplified and like they streamline things. Like instead of all these different weapon types, there's just like one hand and a two hand, and then that breaks out into other things, and they like took out mysticism, other little things like that. Yeah. So when it comes to
that was a big one I remember in Morrowind.
Right,
just jumping around everywhere.
Yes, which is it was an annoying one, like one you could grind, but also one that would just happen when you don't want to level it up if you're trying to min-max things, so it'd be annoying. But so when I think about Fallout, it's hard for me to pinpoint like, what did Fallout 4 remove a lot of those, but essentially in Fallout 3 and New Vegas, which kind of have the same system, is you are doing your special stats at the beginning of the game, and then when you level up, you get like whatever it is, like 15 points that you can allot different places, and so you can put those wherever you want. So like by not like by like level 5 or something, if you just put literally all 15 of your stats every level into one thing, like you could max it out. Obviously, you'd be majorly lacking on other things. Like usually, you want to balance it to some extent. And then after you do that, every like I think 2 levels, you would get to pick a perk on top of that, and then those perks were based on what your stats were. So like once you reach 40 in explosives, you can get this thing, or some of them were like if you have both explosives. Maybe I'm picking up a random thing here, like explosives and big guns. Maybe you'd get like a specific perk you would unlock at that point, and then certain perks you could upgrade. And then your intelligence stat determined how many like of those points you would get every time you leveled up. So like intelligence was really powerful because then you would just like be more efficient every single level. You'd be getting more things.
Yeah.
But then naturally you always have been in that same way kind of closed off from certain elements of the build because of like, yeah, if you put 2 in strength, there's certain perks you'll just never be able to get until, I mean, there is ways in the game to increase your special stats, but that's very rare that you find those. Like, I forget if it's skill books or related to a bobblehead. I think maybe it's a bobblehead.
Bobblehead pickups, I think, yeah.
So I think you can only get like each stat upgraded once from that, right?
That's how it is in Fallout 4, from my understanding.
Yeah, so I don't know. In Fallout 4, is it just putting the stars and the things, or because they took out the stat part of like here you get 15 points to a lot to different skills, right?
Yeah, so you choose your specials at the start of the game, and then every time you level up, you get a perk point, and you can either put that in to upgrade your specials. So it's funny. I don't know why I remember this so vividly, but on our review, Travis didn't know that you could like scroll down on the perk tree, so he literally like maxed out all of the specials before he went to the second layer, which is just hilarious to me. But no, yeah, so. Like, although you can kind of put them wherever you want, if you only have 2 strength, you can only go 2 down that ladder on the strength perks.
Right.
Yes. And then, of course, there's really strong ones once you get to like level 10 or whatnot. Yeah, that's how it's done. In that
so it's pretty much just like less than what you do in Fallout 3 and New Vegas every level, but then like every level you get a perk. Whereas, I'm pretty sure it's every 2 levels in those games. So yeah, it's just I don't know. I really like. Really nerding out about like the specific numbers of the stats and doing that kind of thing. So that was definitely a detractor where, rather than getting to do like 15 fun things every level up, I get to do one like slightly more powerful thing. Yeah. Which I guess didn't feel as good for me. But I guess, a silver lining as well for this when we're thinking ahead of Elder Scrolls 6 right now. That's what we're doing. Is that I actually loved Starfield's RPG system and the way you leveled up. I thought it was really, really good. It took the elements of Skyrim that I enjoyed and made them even better, in my opinion. So
nice.
I think that's another good sign of where we could go with Elder Scrolls.
Interesting. Maybe one day I'll get to experience Starfield.
Someday.
It's one that I've still been very fortunate to not be spoiled on like at all. Like I've to this day I don't think I've seen like any gameplay other than what was shown in like the early trailers. I'm just somehow I'm good at that. Like whether it's a show that's out that I just
sharing
completely
any more thoughts on it until you
put all your your notepads with all your spoiler topics. Keep filling that out because I'm sure one day I'll be able to jump in there.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. I'm so glad you've been, because when you first mentioned that earlier that you have been playing Fallout, I'm like, that's weird. Everyone else in the world like watched the show and then has been playing Fallout again. But I'm like, you haven't watched the show, but I like that's a little 2-in-1 surprise you had for me there. So that's
exactly. A little double whammy on you.
Good stuff. How about we take a quick break and we'll be right back. Okay, we are back. I have 3 games to shout out today. I'm going to start with Wolfenstein: The Old Blood.
Oh.
So two reasons why I decided to pick up this game. I mean, one, this is reason 0. This is not one of the 2 reasons. Is that it's just on Game Pass, of course, easily accessible. I can play it. One is I really was craving just like a first-person shooter campaign. I don't really play those these days, right? Like if I'm playing a first-person shooter, it's like I'm playing Counter-Strike and I'm doing competitive stuff, or I'm playing Warzone with you guys and that's competitive. Or if I do play Halo these days, I'm just jumping in to play a couple online matches. And so I feel like it's been a while since I've done like just a straight up first person shooter campaign. I've done like, played arcade games recently, but it's different than just like a straight up single player first person shooter campaign, all about just gunning enemies down and walking through this world, And then the other reason is because Indiana Jones is coming out later this year, and that's from Machine Games. And I've wanted to go back and check out some of other Machine Games games. So me, Taylor, and Travis, we've talked about maybe doing a 1-episode retrospective of one of these Wolfenstein games. Just, I know it's not really like, maybe it doesn't make a ton of sense for Indiana Jones, but just to like do some research on machine games. And so I don't know if we're going to do that. It kind of depends on when the game comes out, which we don't have a release date yet. But I wanted to play a game that wasn't gonna be in way of that. I didn't want to like play that game early, you know. So I went and played this game instead. So Wolfenstein: The Old Blood is kind of the prequel to the newer Wolfenstein games, like the reboot of them. But before I talk about that, I actually wanted to like dive into the history of this because I went on a huge rabbit hole just looking through I was looking through that rabbit hole of Elder Scrolls Travels. I was just looking into Wolfenstein because I was kind of curious about the series.
I got a question for you because you know I love when you go down these rabbit holes, whether it's a rock climber or not a rock climber, a cave explorer that just goes for a terrible tragedy.
Rock climbing too is another rabbit hole of mine, but yes.
You like, is there a certain time? Like, is it like 2 a.m. or something you can't sleep and you're just going down these rabbit holes, or does it start early and then it gets to 2 a.m. because you're just going so deep, or is it like early morning? Like, is it a set time frame, or is it just anytime, just the curiosity could get
any time of day, man, any time of day. I feel like a lot of the time for video game specific things, it is maybe I just hear someone say something in passing on a podcast. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I'll look into it, and then the rabbit hole begins.
Yeah.
Other times it's like this, right? Yeah, I played through Wolfenstein and I was trying to pick which game to play, and then I was just looking at the Wikipedia. I'm like, god damn, there are so many more games than I ever realized. So then I played the game, and then I was like, okay, now I want to learn about what I've missed and what all these other games are. So it really happens at any time of day. And YouTube will get me too, because YouTube and that goddamn algorithm is so good.
It's too smart. Yeah.
Did you see that? I sent you this video is when you were camping. You probably didn't watch it yet, but the Skyrim video.
Okay, I saw it on there. I forgot to come back to it. No, thanks for reminding me.
You should go watch that, because this is another rabbit hole. I just discovered this YouTuber named Any Austin, and he does all sorts of crazy videos.
11:53 p.m. You sent me that video, by the way. So
yes,
right
that was
midnight.
a late night rabbit hole. But that video is hilarious because he just goes through and like, it's just him he just follows one river to see like where it goes and like the different waterfalls that go into it and like where it splits off. And like, it sounds very mundane, but he's just, a funny YouTuber guy, so it makes it entertaining. But then the rabbit hole is that like his other videos are hilarious, and he has a multiple series of videos, Kirklin, where he just goes through and like, what is the unemployment rate of Whiterun? That's the title of the video. And he goes through and he finds every NPC in the city, determines what their job is, if they have a job, all this stuff. It's absolutely hilarious. So shout out to
Nazim's? Do you remember what Nazim's is? I'm always curious.
He definitely, he came across him in the video, and he mentioned
been to the Cloud District often? Didn't think so. That asshole.
I can't remember if he was employed or not. But anyway, another rabbit hole of mine. But yeah, Wolfenstein. Here's the crazy fact: Wolfenstein, the first game came out the same year that Mario was invented. Isn't that insane?
The
first game came out in 1981. This is a fucking old series. One of the oldest. I knew it was an old series
just because of like the side-by-side comparison I've seen from like Doom or Quake, like that early first-person view. But I knew it was old, but just when you say the year Mario was invented, that's shocking to me.
Technically, because Mario was introduced in Donkey Kong when jumping around there, so technically Wolfenstein came out before the first Mario game even came out, which is insane to me. But yeah, I had the same perception where, Wolfenstein was like one of those first-person shooters that came out in the 90s. But no, it turns out the first game came out in 1981, and it was not a first-person shooter, because this was before that genre even existed. But it's like a top-down, it's a very old game, so visuals are very limited. It looks like an NES game. I think it's an old PC game. And yeah, it's just like a top-down kind of stealth sort of game. I don't even know if there's really much action in it. So that's crazy. And it was called Castle Wolfenstein, and there was like a sequel, a very similar looking sequel called Beyond Castle Wolfenstein. And then after that, in 1992, there was Wolfenstein 3D, Spear of Destiny, and that's what we think of when we think of Wolfenstein. So that's where that kind of element of it started. And then there was another one, Return to Castle Wolfenstein, Wolfenstein Enemy Territory. And then in 2008, I thought this was hilarious. There's a game, Wolfenstein RPG. So there was like a first-person shooter hybrid RPG thing, which I think is more like turn-based, but it's still a first-person shooter. So I don't know how that works, but it's a game I really want to go back and check out and hear about. And then there was another game in 2009, Wolfenstein And then that leads us into 2014, which is when Machine Games, the studio that we were talking about earlier, started working on it with Wolfenstein: The New Order. And then the next year they released The Old Blood, which is what I'm going to talk about in a bit. And then Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus. And then that takes us into Youngblood and Cyberpilot, which were like the two kind of spin-off games that came out in 2019. So yeah, that's a very brief history. And obviously I've only played one of these games, so I'm not a historian on it by any means. But yeah, like a much wilder history than I thought. And I think even in that, like, what is that, like 10, 12 games, there's like 4 or 5, maybe even 6 developers that have worked on these games. So it's all been all sorts of different people making them. Like the one that looks like Doom was made by the Doom team back in the day. And then Machine Games was like formed to create this new game in 2014. So yeah, some really interesting stuff with this like very under the radar series. Like I feel like the name is kind of iconic, but like when people talk about this, like I never really hear them talk about specific games. So I feel like it is kind of a weird, obscured sort of series that has never been at the forefront of first-person shooters, but is certainly a big part of the genre's history. So
yeah, I feel like if you showed like specifically Wolfenstein like 3D, I feel like if you showed like an image of that to someone, they probably would have just guessed it would be like Doom. Like it does seem kind of like the, you know, like the younger brother maybe of Doom. I don't know which one came out first, probably Doom, I would imagine, but
I think so, yeah.
But just yeah, I don't know why that's. I guess Doom is just an easier title to say. Like I don't know why that stands out more for people to remember. Maybe just the fact you're just battling demons, and that's just what those games are. But like even the new ones, like they look pretty similar to me. Like when I'm comparing the two, obviously Doom, there's a lot more crazy demons and whatnot, but just the overall aesthetic of the characters. And I haven't played either of the new ones, whether it's from Machine Games or what is it? Is it id Software? That did? Yeah. Like I don't know how they feel, but they it just looks like they would play pretty similarly. So it's funny how even the new versions, in my mind, seem pretty similar. But no, it's so funny that you jumped into this, because I'm pretty sure last time I was on Sidequest, I was mentioning how I saw on the PlayStation catalog they had all the Wolfenstein games just on there, and I'm like, man, I am kind of looking for a just a simple shooter storyline. Like I think the most recent one I gone through on that was Titanfall 2, and I truly love that game. I think I beat it in one sitting.
That's on my backlog too. I got to do that one soon.
Absolutely fantastic game. I never played the first one. I remember Briggs back in the day was a big Titanfall fan.
Yes, and Wolfenstein fan as well.
Oh, there you go. So it goes hand in hand. So I'm probably gonna love this when I eventually get to it, because I really love Titanfall 2. But no, it's cool to hear that you jumped in there for that. And like starting on this one, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah,
would you recommend that, because it is a prequel?
Yeah, I mean, since I haven't played the New Order yet, I don't know. Like, it's hard for me to recommend it, but or recommend it as like the starting point of it. So I'll have to report back on that angle of it. But yeah, once again, Wolfenstein: New Order, then the prequel came out, and then the sequel came out. I hate that it's called the New Order and the New Colossus. Like, you call maybe the new one the New Order, like when it starts the franchise again, but then you just call it the Big Colossus, or I don't know, something else. Like I don't like the idea that there's two news in the title there. But also I found it interesting that, like, I feel like this could have been a DLC, and I wonder why it wasn't. I wonder why they decided, maybe it just had enough juice in it, but like it came out the year after, so it must have been in development or like in the works before that game even came out. It makes me think of actually, because back then when this came out was, of course, Bethesda is the publisher there, and a similar thing happened with Dishonored 2 and Death of the Outsider, where that could have been a DLC, but instead they made it like a separate, smaller spin-off game. And I feel like that's kind of what happened here as well. So maybe that was just like big Bethesda, the publisher there, was making the decision to, rather than doing DLC for these kind of smaller mid-budget games, maybe they would just do a whole new entry in the series. So kind of also an interesting thing there. But I had a really good time playing through this game. I think it was like maybe like 8 to 10 hours in that range. So like it was like the perfect length of what I wanted. And it was exactly what I was looking for, where not a whole lot of story to it. a lot of the story I was just skipping because I'm like, I don't care about these characters. These villains are not engaging to me. Like I like if the enemy is a Nazi, that's good enough motivation for me to want to shoot them down. Like I don't really need all these other big exposition scenes and whatnot. But yeah, like just first person shooter mechanics. It's funny. It took like a little bit for me to get used to it because just been playing so much Warzone lately, which is like the most polished first person shooter of all time. Feels so good. Every movement and every crouch, the way the gun sways in your hand, all that stuff like feels great. And so it took me a bit to like calibrate to like, oh yeah, this is not the biggest budget game in the world that I'm playing right now. But it didn't take long before I kind of got clicked into the movement and the feeling of it and adjust the settings around to make it feel just right. And in that way, it was like, yeah, it was just fun. This really harkens back to like the Xbox 360 era where I was playing all sorts of FPS campaigns. And I just don't really do that anymore with games that are just like, this is a first-person shooter and nothing else. But this was perfect for that. And like, that's one of the things I loved about it. This game did not have a single puzzle in it. I am so sick of puzzles in games like this that it just feels like it's there to slow you down, just to drag it out, or maybe just to like offer a palate cleanser. But it's like, no, I'm playing Wolfenstein because I want to have like a first-person shooter, high octane, set piecey sort of game, and it definitely fulfilled in that sort of way. Really good variety of locations and level design. There's like hidden paths and hidden areas you can find, and like I don't know, it's not like, oh, you can go in stealthy or you can go in loud. Like there is a bit of that, but just in terms of like how big these levels are, like they're just big enough where you kind of have a little bit of freedom in how you want to engage with them. But there's like huge castle areas. There's a really cool town section going through these like underground ruins and whatnot. So yeah, just like really good variety there. Really enjoyed that. I actually really enjoyed the like RPG mechanic, the level up system. It's like very simplistic, but there's like 12 skills that you can get, and you just, to unlock them, you just have to do a certain thing. So it's like, you know, get 50 kills like dual wielding, or get your HP, like overload your HP to this certain amount, kill 4 enemies with 1 grenade. And so it's like, it's little bonus challenges that like, okay, I'm going to try and find the right spot where I can throw a grenade and get 4 enemies, and then I'll get some bonus out of it. Now I can carry more grenades, so they're more powerful. And so just little things like that were really fun and incremental. And then I found like, I didn't even know it existed for the first like 3 or 4 missions I was doing. But then when I noticed it, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm going to try and do these specific things, try to go for more headshots, try and, ooh, I see this certain enemy type, I need to get stealth kills on them. So it kind of like just changed the way I would engage with it a little bit to get these marginal little upgrades there. But tons of like good weapon variety. You can like dual wield almost every weapon in the game, which is really fun to have like dual wield like AK-47s that you're going around with. And yeah, I gotta say, like, this is very much had an Indiana Jones sort of feel to it, with like crazy set pieces. At one point you're like on this huge gondola, and then it's getting shot down, so it's like falling, and you're like just holding on by the edge of your fingers, and then transferring, jumping over some other things. So I feel like it's in good hands for this team to be doing the Indiana Jones game. And there was certain like sections where, yeah, I was in like some underground ruins temple area where there wasn't really a puzzle, but like I had to walk in a room, and like the way these fires lit up this big circles, like, oh, this is like an Indiana Jones thing going on here too. So I feel like when it comes to them like doing that, and I imagine Indiana Jones is going to have puzzles in it, which I would expect it to, I think they're going to hopefully do a pretty good job with that. What else do I want to shout out here? One thing that I loved, I think you'll love too, because it felt like a very arcane thing, is like the melee weapon you have. I mean, you have a knife, but you also have, it's like just like a pipe, like a, I don't know, any sort of random pipe, and you can like click it together to get like almost like a bow staff, or you can unclick it to have like 2 versions. And you use it to like bust down walls. You use it as like a pick in the wall to like climb up different things. You use it to like pop open all sorts of things in the environment. So it feels like an arcane, like a glue gun or something, where it just like is this multi-tool where it does a bunch of different things. So really enjoyed that one. And then I think the part that surprised me, and this maybe is more potentially spoilers, I don't even know, for later on in this 2015 game, is that like the paranormal side of it, I never really knew too much about like the story in a big way about Wolfenstein, what it's all about. But like at some point it just turns into like zombie fest. All these enemies, you take them out, and then they just like explode into like these zombie versions, and you're going through like graveyards and stuff. And then, big spoiler here, the last boss fight is like a humongous like mummy underground that's like one of those giant, like almost like God of War type bosses that is like
I've seen a
smashing his arms
screenshot of it
down.
actually. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's
and like
crazy.
swinging his arm, and you gotta like crouch under him, and it's like, man, I did not see that coming when I was playing through 90% of this game, because like that supernatural stuff just pops up in the last like level or two, pretty much. So I'm curious where, considering that's like at the end of this prequel, I wonder where that stuff is in like when you get into the New Order and you're in that main game, and how prevalent the supernatural element of it is. But yeah, overall, just had a great time with this game. Really, really fun time, and I'm excited to jump into New Order and New Colossus. I don't know if I'll get to all of those before Indiana Jones comes out, because I don't even know when that game's coming out. But yeah, had a really good time with this, and Machine Games, I'm a fan of them after this one. So excited for their newest game coming out later this year.
Nice. Yeah, you're getting me excited to jump in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you definitely should. And well, maybe I'll let you know if I think Old Blood or New Order will be a better one to jump into first. But
Yeah.
I don't know. This seemed like a pretty good starting point for me in terms of like introducing the character and the kind of setting and whatnot.
Right. Yeah.
And I know you go to Castle Wolfenstein in this, and I feel like in most of these games you go to Castle. Like I'm guessing you go there over and over again. Though obviously the first game is called that. Multiple games are called that. I'm guessing it's just a reoccurring area in these games that you would go to. So yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious because, like I was saying, I think all of them are on the PlayStation catalog when I saw them on there.
Nice.
Maybe I was unaware of a certain title on there, but I think I don't know. I think I would just start at like the earliest one just to go from there and play them in release order. But yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, there's one of the older ones on PC Game Pass, like one of the PC only games, I think from like the mid 2000s. Not the RPG one, unfortunately, but yeah, one of those exists there. And then yeah, everything else is on all the newer ones are on Game Pass. I guess some of those older games, like that original one, I'm guessing that's just one of those games kind of lost to time to some extent. I don't know if it's been like, I don't know. They could do like a remaster collection with all these random ass games. Put RPG in there. Put those old ones, the game from 81 in there. Like I think that'd be a cool collection to get. But once again, since like so many different developers made it, I'm sure there's all sorts of different engines that those games were made in. It would probably be a total mess. But it would be cool to get like a little historical package version where you can try all these older games. But
Right.
who
Yeah,
knows?
looks like they have 4 titles: New Order, Old Blood, Young Blood, and then Wolfenstein 2 on there.
Okay, on PC Game Pass.
On PlayStation catalog.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I think those same ones are on Game Pass plus that one random like mid
Right,
2000s
okay.
one. So that's cool. Yeah, that's interesting that they're on there still. I mean, I know a lot of these deals happen pre Xbox acquisition, but that seems like it's been on there for longer than I would expect. So that's cool for the sake of people having access to that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm because I have like the highest tier of the PlayStation Plus. I don't know which ones are like extra or premium.
Right.
Maybe a couple are only on the max one, but yeah.
Right. Cool. Next up on my list here is this game called Little Kitty Big City, which is a very cute game that came out on Game Pass a couple weeks ago. This is a very short and sweet game. It takes like 2 hours to beat. I literally got every Xbox achievement, and that took me like 3 hours, I think. But this is a game where you play as this cute little cat in this kind of cute, small Japanese city. And it's pretty much like a 3D kind of platforming collectathon sort of game. You're going around collecting all sorts of different things, collecting money, buying outfits, doing little quests for all these different creatures around town. It's kind of similar to Untitled Goose Game in a way that you're like, a lot of the objectives or quests that you're being given is to pretty much just like troll people. Like one guy is like a construction worker, and you have to go in there and like put your paw prints all over his freshly poured cement.
Cat.
Yeah, exactly. You got to like steal someone's phone and bring it to someone else. You have to like take a phone and like drop it in a toilet at some point. So all just like these kind of you're like trolling people through this city. But yeah, I had like a really good time playing through this. Obviously, if I got the 100%, it was like I was in there doing all these different collectibles. It wasn't too. There's a couple of them were pretty tedious at the end to just like do this thing 100 times, but for the most part, it was just like one of those kind of turn off your brain and just screw around and listen to a podcast while you play sort of games. and I really enjoyed it. The movement is really good. It was really fast and fluid. You're doing like some minor platforming here, but it's interesting seeing this game and then like Stray from a couple years ago, and how they both, are having you as a very realistic-ish sort of cat, like rather than like an anthropomorphic type cat, you're like an actual cat, and have that sort of movement, where Stray was much more like on rails in the way you did things, it felt, but this game is more freeform, and I think because of that, it ends up being a lot jankier when you're like getting glitched in things or like freaking out. And Stray, I think, probably just had a higher budget, more production values, a bit more polished of a game, but they're kind of trying to do different things. Stray's like a very story-focused, single-player situation, whereas this is more of like 3D collectathon sort of space, obviously. So, yeah, I had a really good time with it. Like I said, it's on Game Pass, so definitely an easy one to recommend. And really, yeah, my only con of it is like, yeah, kind of janky, and then there's so much text in this game, so much dialogue, and it's like, I don't think anyone who wants to play this game cares what like these characters have to say. Like, I was just mashing, but even though I was mashing the A button to get through this stuff, there was still like, sometimes it would take 10-15 seconds of just like straight mashing to get through. It was insane how much there was in here. But yeah, just like the way you're upgrading your character, getting better at climbing, and like you get to some pretty crazy heights and different locations and like certain hidden locations and unlocking shortcuts and whatnot. Like, it's just such a well-designed city that you just get so intimately familiar with as you're going through it. And then it will get to a point where you find one thing halfway across the city and you're like, oh, I know exactly what I need to do with this one item. So you pick it up and take it where you need to go. So yeah, big recommend. Really, really enjoyed it for anyone looking for just a chill, relaxing, kind of platforming sort of game. Big recommend for me.
Nice. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you said the title, I was just like, such a Dylan game. I feel like you told me about so many just cute little whimsical games with funky titles, and I really like the art style of it, actually. It definitely, I don't know, like it seems like a smaller studio just from like the aesthetics of it, but like I don't mean that in a negative sense. It's just they're doing a lot with maybe the resource that they have to their disposal, and just kind of like the zoomed in bug eye camera. I don't know if that's always how like the gameplay is, but it just seems funny, like looking. It makes it look like the human characters are a lot bigger than they would be, which makes sense through the eyes of a cat. So yeah, that's really cute.
That's interesting, because I feel like Stray actually did have more of like a top-downy. Like, it felt at least more top-down than like this game is, so it has like a different kind of perspective. I mean, that's like not a realistic Japanese city in the way that this game is, so it's kind of a different.
I do like Stray, by the way.
I really enjoyed it. I had a great time with it. Like visually, it's really great. The music's fantastic. I enjoyed the story, the traversal of it, and the different things you're doing are pretty engaging. It's like switching it up enough. Definitely more like there's crazy set pieces and stuff. And it's like, it's like 3-4 hours, something like that. So, I hope they make a sequel. I mean, that game was very successful. So I'm sure that studio is working on something cool. But I do hope it is a sequel. I think there's room for them to do a lot more in terms of mechanics and stuff. But yeah, like just such a weird, like playing a cute cat, but you're in like this really weird underground, like cyberpunk setting. Like that was a very wild take on like what a game like that could be. So it was a good one for sure.
Cool.
So that was that one. And then lastly, and this one I've really just started. I've only put like an hour and a half maybe into it. I just picked it up. It's called Delusion. It came out a couple years ago. It's been in early access, and it just launched 1.0, which is why I finally decided to pick it up. But this is a game that I've heard described, and from the visuals, described similar to Morrowind, which, of course, my favorite single-player game of all time. So, of course, I was in. They describe it as acid fantasy, which I think is a really cool description of like the aesthetics of this, because it is a fantasy setting, but like the sky is like bloodshot, trippy, all sorts of crazy giant mushrooms and colors, and it has like it has that Morrowind sort of aesthetic. Like it looks like a game that came out in early 2000s, but like very intentionally, like really nice shaders and nice like effects and the way things move around. So it's very intentional in going for that older school design, but it still has it's not just like a Morrowind cop out or clone or something like that. Like it's creating its own sort of setting with it. And like the visuals of it are great. The 3D art of it I really like, the kind of low low pixel count, like the textures look really cool. And then like there's certain pixel art for like the icons and stuff in the game, and that looks really great as well. Like some potions that I'm like, damn, I wish my potions looked as good as these potions do. The music is really good so far. I don't know how much variety there's going to be to the music, but there's kind of just like this one or two songs that I've heard so far, and it's really nice. So yeah, it's kind of it's hard for me to speak on the overall scale or scope of it yet because I'm not too far in. It seems like it is an open world game like a Morrowind where you can go around, do whatever you want. I've already accumulated like 5 or 6 side quests in it, so it's like, okay, obviously I can go do different things if I want. But it's maybe a bit more confined than a regular Elder Scrolls game in that rather than the setting being in Morrowind, you're on Vardenfell, this huge continent. This takes place in like these sky islands. It has a very different aesthetic than like a regular sky island because of the trippiness of the sky and just the environment in general. But because of that, I think they can maybe be a bit more particular about the locations that they're building because it's not like, oh yeah, every little hill and mountain needs to be accounted for. Like it's just very particular areas in these floating sky islands. So that's a cool, different sort of aesthetic to it. It seems like there's an element at some point, because I was just going through the controls, and I see that there's controls for a sky ship or an airship. So at some point, I'm going to get an airship and be able to maybe explore them on my own. So maybe once I get to that point, it'll feel like a truly open world experience at that point. It seems like there's some customization too as well to just the visuals of like building out a base or something. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. But yeah, it's really cool so far. I really enjoy it. I like the setup a lot. It's got that like jankiness of Morrowind, which of course I'm like partial to, but it's like not. It's janky in a dated way, but like it feels like a very intentional way. So like I'm curious to see how I'll feel about that as things evolve. Because like as much as I love Morrowind, I'll be the first to admit that its combat is not great. From the lens of playing Oblivion or Skyrim or any other game really, any other action game that's come out since then.
Does it play like Morrowind in the sense of like dice rolls for hits and such?
No, it doesn't. It's if you hit someone, you hit them. So in that way, it feels good. There is so far there's been a dice roll for the lock picking, which I think is funny because it's like it literally rolls a dice. It's like you need a 4 to get. So it feels like very D&D, obviously. Yeah. But it's like you need a 4 to get this, and it will like roll the dice, and you can see that there. But yeah, the combat itself is. There's hit detection. There are hit boxes, which is great to see. So that feels good so far. The stealth and like the I don't have a bow yet, so I can't comment on the stealth archer-ness of this. But I've been trying to because I picked a stealthy-ish sort of class, and I'm finding it like really hard to sneak up on enemies so far. One guy got a stealth attack on, 1-hit kill, felt great. But I don't know if they're trying to make it really like rewarding because it's hard to do. But yeah, like I've found it's just like it's been really hard to sneak up on someone yet because of their walking patterns, because of how open the areas are. Like there's not a lot of boxes and stuff everywhere, I guess. So maybe it depends on the area. But then also, like I feel like with first-person games and stealth, a big part of what makes that work is I think of like Arcane and how you can peek around ledges. You can peek your guy back and forth.
Yeah.
And they make it so like if you're behind a wall, like the enemies probably can't see you. But in this game, like if I'm peeking my eyes out just a little bit, like an enemy will spot me. So maybe my stats just suck because it's an RPG. But yeah, I'm curious to see how that goes because like I did particularly pick a stealth-based class, and I feel like it's almost impossible to like actually do that yet. So once again, I am early on. Maybe I'll get better at it. So we'll see how that goes. I like the setup. Like building your character doesn't take too long. There aren't too many stats in this game, so it's not super RPG in that way. But I like it kind of has that Baldur's Gate element to it where you pick your background in a way, and so you kind of pick 2 levels. Like you pick essentially like warrior, stealth, magic, or like speech based, and then once you pick that, then you pick like a subclass within that, which is cool. So like I picked thief, and then there was like, oh, do you want to be, or I picked like I guess like a criminal, which is like thief based, and it's like, oh, do you want to be like a thug for hire, so you're more like strength focused, or you could be like a thief who like dealt in magic artifacts, so you have like magic thief. Ooh. And that's kind of the one I went with. But like interesting kind of subclasses there, but also it's like you literally just pick 2 things for the character creator, so it's pretty simple. And then, yeah, you have all sorts of different like weapon slots and magic slots. So I'm sure it's going to get more complicated as time goes on. But yeah, I've been having a really good time with it so far. Like I said, pretty early on, so I'll have to report back on it. But yeah, it's a really cool game with a really cool aesthetic that I'm glad that there's indie teams making games like this, because this just feels like it speaks to me as someone who's nostalgic for Morrowind, of course.
No, 100%. I mean, the sky, like just the aesthetic overall is definitely eye popping, and it's I didn't know games like this were even created these days. This is really cool and unique, and so like the thing that stands out for me the most over all of those things is actually the villains and the like the character design of certain enemies. It's so unique. It reminds me of like maybe a Silent Hill villain or like a Studio Ghibli type character. It's just so all over the place on these villain designs, and yeah, this is really cool actually. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna jump right into it. It's not quite my game I'd be playing these days, but no, this is really interesting.
I would be kind of salty if you played this before playing Morrowind. I'm gonna be honest.
That's 100% fair.
How about this, Kirklin? Elder Scrolls 6. We got years still away. What if we do an Elder Scrolls retrospective, where we talk about Skyrim,
Elder
we talk about
Scrolls.
Oblivion, and we do Morrowind? Just those three.
Just the 3 games?
I mean, we could go back and do Arena and Daggerfall, but I don't know if I want to commit to 40 hours of Arena. I'm gonna be honest with
I'm
you.
out on those ones.
Yeah.
Just seeing how some of those game systems play. It's I mean, I tried playing the original System Shock, and I couldn't quite do that.
Well, the remake just came out. Well, it came out last year on PC only, and I think it just came out on consoles now, which I'm excited about.
I'm interested on that. Let's put a pin in that one on the Bethesda retro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna make you promise or anything, but
it's something like it's like a bucket list thing where I do want to experience those stories, especially for, I mean, because I've played Skyrim. Obviously, they talk about the events of history, so I know kind of the main what happens in something like Oblivion, something like a Morrowind. Like I know all about Vivek and the legend of what that character is, but that would be really interesting to go through those fresh, especially in this era. I mean, I made it through Arcs. I feel like I can make it through anything.
That's true. If you can make it through Arcs, you can have fun with Morrowind. I mean, because I've thought about this. I think the best way for us to do Morrowind we should do like a dedicated, like actual first, like a pre-episode that's just like 20-30 minutes of just like the Morrowind beginner's guide. And I'll just like, if it's me, you, and Taylor, for example, I'll just give you guys the crash course of like, here's what you need to know with like the old jank of the game, and then go explore, do whatever you want. But like here's like 10 tips to survive in Vardenfell. Like here's the things you need to know, because some of these systems are pretty archaic. But it's like even the RPG, like the randomness of the attack. It's like if you build your character right, like that's not actually going to be an issue as long as you use like what your character is. But like certain things are very unintuitive. So yeah, I think we should definitely do that. So when we have any sort of idea of what Elder Scrolls 6 is coming out, we'll talk more seriously about that. But at least we'll do Skyrim, and Oblivion's like an easier one, so we should definitely do those at the very least. Yeah,
absolutely. I feel like I would rather do Morrowind and Oblivion mostly just because I've played. I mean, I love Skyrim. I play that. You don't have to twist my arm to play that game, but I've just played it so much that going through a fresh playthrough of another game, I think that would be more worth my while. But
yeah, definitely.
Damn, I didn't know we were getting a whole new retro just popping out of this episode.
Well, like I said, it could be years away, but it's good.
All because of Dread Delusion and the similarities to Morrowind.
Definitely. So yeah, once again, I will. That's definitely a game I got to report back on. I feel like me and you can do our Fallout and Dread Delusion updates every once in a while. I don't know how long this game is in terms of Elder Scrolls, of course, hundreds of hours long, all these games. So I don't know how much content is in this one. But yeah, like I said, it's been in early access for like 2 years, adding content, changing things. So I'm sure there's quite a bit to play. So let's take our last break, and then we just have 2 kind of shorter news topics. We will be right back. Okay, we are back. First, I want to mention this. So this was a couple weeks ago, Kirklin. You haven't been on since then, but our favorite, Arcane Studios, which we've mentioned today multiple times, Arcane Austin shut down. It's closing. They said it's officially closed, but then here's the wrinkle, and why I'm bringing this up today is that they said, hey, Redfall is closing. We're not doing any more updates. See you later. But then Xbox said that actually we're going to let Redfall do their last update. We're going to let them finish what they were working on here. They're still getting shut down, but we're going to at least give them this final update. So silver lining feels like way too generous of a term to say here because they're still getting laid off. But yeah, I don't know. What was your take? Or I don't know. I'm sure it was just sadness, but what did you think about when you heard that news that our great Arcane Austin's getting shut down?
I feel like I was, like more so just kind of in disbelief. Like that can't actually be a thing. Now that I've had like some time, I feel like, I mean, Redfall wasn't great to my understanding. Mostly, just the news around it. Never got the chance to play it. I never played it. I'll just say that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's okay. Yeah, like one bad game. I don't think is enough to really close down doors. And but just in this climate, like it does kind of make some sense in hindsight. But like, at the same time, it just sucks, like knowing that
Xbox can afford to keep them open.
Exactly.
Easily.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's at the end of the day. That's exactly what it is. You have like $1 billion corporation that's just shutting down doors on something because they lost some money there, which is super unfortunate. And I'm just really hoping what comes out of this is like those super creative folks at Arcane Austin are able to just maybe get a better opportunity elsewhere, or maybe deviate and do their own thing, or what other opportunities come their way. You know, maybe it's something on the Sony sphere. You know, as a PlayStation owner, I would love to get some of those creatives over on that side, just because. Like I know that's like the people that are really great at their job. Like they'll keep making games. It's not like this is the end of that. It's just I think it's unfortunate looking back on just the greatness that they were able to come through, and it just sucks the way that it's like I think going out because of Redfall and stuff like that. Like it's just kind of seen as just a dark spot, I guess, on like where they're going out. It's not like they're just going out with a big bang, and it's just like Arcane Austin's still around, but like those creatives ended up dissipating, and then the studio just kind of fizzles out. It's just like, no, doors are shut. That's the end of that. So it's unfortunate that it went that way, but I'm really glad that we did the retro. You know, in hindsight to that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think. You know, so what they announced here is that they're going to be able to do their final update. This is not, like, they haven't officially 100% confirmed this, but it seems like the DLC characters, like that part of the DLC is not happening still. Like that part they're still going to be issuing refunds for, like that pre-order bonus stuff, but they're allowing them to finish their May. It was supposed to be their May update, so we'll see if it comes out in May. Don't have many days left for that to happen. And I think the biggest reason for this is they've said that part of this May update is, you know, there's a couple new content things, like maybe a couple new weapons or some changes to certain mechanics, like nests is one of the kind of mini dungeons you can do in the game. They reworked those. But along with this as well, they have the single player only mode, because this is an online only game, even if you're playing it single player. So that's one of the things that's going to be patched in with this update. And so I think that actually explained a lot for me of why they're allowing them to do this update, is because I feel like Redfall is a game that they're going to shut those servers off, like maybe even when the studio closes. And with the way the game was set up, if they had done that, then the game would just be not playable anymore. Just like the way I'm so scared that someday Hitman World of Assassination will not be playable anymore because it's fucking online only for no reason whatsoever. So I think that's a big reason of why they're doing this, and I would anticipate that they're going to shut the servers off when this update comes out and they have the single player only. So it's a good thing, because now this game, rather than just like, let's say they closed the studio but kept the servers online for like another year or two, because like, I don't know, the game's not very popular. There's not really much reason to keep it on for too long. Then the game would have just been delisted and gone forever. But now it will exist. It will continue to exist for a lot of people. That doesn't mean anything. They don't care. But for me, that makes me really happy that this game will still be playable. It will still exist. And even if it's, you know, by far my least favorite Arcane game, I can still go back and check it out. And like, if I can't do multiplayer, I don't care. I never even really did multiplayer when it still is in the game, and I'm not doing it. I more care about this from a single player perspective, and it is a game I'll jump back into. And when this update comes out, I'm very excited to go jump back in and see what's new, see what's changed. I've barely even, like when they did the 60 frames update, I downloaded it again, and I messed around for a little bit just to see how that felt, and it was cool, but I wanted to wait until there was the more characters, which I'm obviously not getting now. But at this point, it kind of makes sense for me to just wait for this update to come out and then jump back in and play that. So I'll probably save that for an episode that you're on, Kirklin, and I'll talk to you about how my experience, kind of my last steps through Redfall will be. But I'm glad that they're getting to do this update, and you know what, like, it's another few weeks of work for these people too. They'll get paid a little bit more while they're trying to find a new position. So hopefully that is good for them, helps them, and I'm sure they'll still get big severance package on their being laid off here too. So yeah, it's sad, of course, but I'm excited for this update. Even if it's not the characters, I'm still excited to see what's in it. And then also, like Rafael Colantonio, so the creator of Arcane originally, who did Arx Fatalis all the way up to Prey, and then he left Arcane Austin at that point. He did Weird West with his new studio, Wolfenstein Studios. He's been talking more and more about his next game, and it seems like it might be a first-person thing. They might be going a little bit back to form with the Arcane feel. So that also just made me feel hopeful that, like, man, like, that is a lot of the Arcane Austin team, like, left with him to make Weird West. And so that they're maybe transitioning back into what the studio can no longer make, it makes me happy. It's like, okay, you know, at least from my perspective, like, I'm going to get still going to get some of these games in a different light. And I don't know if they're going to hire more people to make those projects. I'm sure they got their eyes on the people leaving Arcane Austin and maybe bring some more of those people in to work on that project. So maybe that's maybe being a bit hopeful, but I mean, I love Weird West. So even if it was just Weird West 2, I would be over the moon. But it sounds like he's doing something new and different, which is very exciting. So there you go. There's that. And then lastly, the day this episode drops, the May 28th, is the relaunch of MultiVersus, which is a game that, you know, when it went offline, I wasn't really playing it much anymore. And then in the months and months and months and a year that it was away, I was like, kind of a weird strategy they had for this game to turn it offline for so long. I don't think I really care anymore. But then there's been some few exciting announcements actually recently in terms of the big relaunch that they're doing. So have you checked out any of this stuff? Have you seen any of these characters or modes or anything like that?
Yeah, I read the article that you shared with me there, and I got some new stuff, some new, what is it, my gosh, NetFrame,
Improved
networks?
netcode, yeah.
Netcode, there you go.
I think it has like rollback netcode, which is like usually the best type. Works best if people have bad connections. Like, it just is the best. So yeah, that's like a great improvement. I didn't really have any problems with the online, to be honest, but if it's going to be even better, sure, that sounds great to me. Another big thing is there is a PvE mode, and one of the things they showed in a trailer looked a hell of a lot like Target Test from Smash, which is one of my favorite single player modes from those games. So that's really exciting for me, and that's going to bring me back in. But then, of course, there's 4 new characters that are dropping with. Well, actually, I don't know if they're coming out like the day the drop is, but they announced them all, so I'm sure they're coming out pretty soon. And those characters are Joker, Jason from Friday the 13th, Agent Smith from The Matrix, and then Banana Guard from Adventure Time. So a very eclectic group of characters. Of course, Joker, there's already like, 4 other DC characters. That makes a lot of sense. There's the 2 characters from Adventure Time, but then a couple other new IP are getting into the fray here. I'm excited to see what those maps are. So, and I think those are great picks. I think they're fun, weird picks that I would not have seen coming. Well, I guess Joker was a pretty obvious one considering they've done so many DC characters, but I'm excited about these characters, and I think it's pretty fun, and I'm definitely going to jump back into this game now and give it another few games and check out some of the single player content too.
I think my favorite part about this news, I mean, I was kind of surprised seeing like Jason on there. I think that's the one that stood out the most.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
But kind of the way that they describe the characters, like Joker is a mage fighter, if I'm not mistaken, or like a mage caster, like one of those things. Which I was kind of surprised about. And then when they're talking about Jason, he's like a tankier type character. They said less like tanky, large character, but less so than Iron Giant, which of course makes sense because he's an Iron Giant. But just like the way that they're describing it makes me pretty excited to try them, because I don't know what it is, but whenever I think of like Smash and like the heavy characters, I just think that they're most of the time just bad guys, and when I play those characters, I just channel my inner bad guy. So I just can't wait to play Jason Voorhees and just tank those hits. How Jason in the movies is just like immortal. Like I just want to feel that way and just have my hits really hit hard. Because when Jason hits, he hits to kill. So that'll be really fun. And then just the different traps and whatnot and gadgets that Joker will be bringing. That is cool.
Yeah.
I did see that it's behind like the premium battle pass, which I feel like the whole character unlock. And I should explain that just for Joker, I think he's just the like the premium character.
Right. Because
I don't know if that one's.
I'm pretty sure with this coming back, like them rebooting the game, the first battle pass is free to everyone.
Okay.
Is the way they're framing it, which I guess you could just say is like a free progression thing. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure Banana Guard is like the easiest character to get. Like you just have to like log back in.
You just got to do the tutorial.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's how you get him, and then I think Jason might be in that first battle pass thing that you that like the free one. But yeah, I didn't look into Joker or Agent Smith, but so it sounds like Joker might be a more of a paid character, I guess.
Yeah, and
or
like,
can you? I guess you could just save your tokens and then buy him outright again, like any other character.
Perhaps. Just the way that they like even going forward, if we get new characters in the game and they're pretty much like a battle pass rollout, even if you're able to get them later on, it just seems like one of those things where the new, and I'm just basing it off of other like PvP type games in the past, whenever there's like a new something that comes out, usually overtuned, usually a little OP.
Right.
And if you're paying money to get that character faster than other people, and then I'm just getting bopped online by little Jimmy that took his mom's credit card, and it's clearly just the character, not the skill, air quotes. But like, I just feel like that's something that would potentially deter me from the game. I'm never going to be treating this game as like one I really want to get competitive with and like really be in the top %. But I just, like, it is a free to play game. So like you can make the argument there that you are getting access to it. You just got to play to get these characters. But it's just, if I'm playing couch co-op and I want my friends to come over and they want to play like Jason or something, it's just like, yeah, sorry, I got to grind for that character. Like, I just don't love that whole aspect to it. And that's something that has been in the game. Like, it's not a new complaint, I think, that I've had with the game in the past. But I don't know. I think the other, like, that's pretty much my only negative, I think, that I have about this news. Like, I am excited to try it again, especially them just talking about how it'll feel a lot better because of their net code, whatever the heck you called it. Just those aspects. I think it is exciting to jump back in, especially because it, like, it's been over a year, like almost 2 years. I can't remember last time I played that game. It's been a while, so
I think it's been offline for at least a year.
Yeah,
my timeline could be off because I only played it for like a couple months, I think, before I kind of jumped out there. Which I mean, my biggest complaint with the game is that it just took so freaking long to unlock characters, and like the weekly rotation had so few in there that it was just I don't know. I love in these games to play all the characters and check all of them out, and I think you can do that like in the training mode. You can like see how they all feel, but I don't know. It just wasn't the same to me. Call me old fashioned, but I just want to give them $40 and get all the characters. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe they want like full 90 to get all the characters. But yeah, I don't like all the steps it takes to get these characters. So at least it sounds like maybe a couple of them will be easier to get jumping back in. And then obviously your old account will still be active. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to jump back in there and see some of that stuff as well. What do you think about Agent Smith as a Matrix enthusiast, about that character edition?
That's wild. I'm excited to try Agent Smith. I'm really hoping that they incorporate like the fact that Agent Smith can just take over like anyone. I'm not saying in the sense of like he is a like a Shang Tsung, Mortal Kombat character that can like take the form of anyone. I want to feel like if someone, like, how do I phrase this? Like, if I'm fighting you and you defeat me, like, he just pops up again, like, out of nowhere. Like it's just like an endless wave type hero, which I think could be really unique in the sense that it is like a platforming fighter. I really hope it feels more than just like a melee hero in a suit. Like, I really want them to tap into that Agent Smith energy, which, I mean, he's very capable of a fighter, what's shown in the game, in the movies. But I feel like something that sets it out is that just Agent Smith could be anywhere and take over like anything, and just feel like you can't escape it. That's what I want to feel from the characters.
Yeah, as someone who's never really seen Matrix, I guess I saw like the new. I saw,
Bad
like,
one
the
to jump
newest one, I
into.
think.
Bad one to jump into. Just watch the first and leave it at that.
Yeah. So no, that's very interesting though. You've compelled me more than I
Yeah.
expected. But I think like 'cause I would guess he's more of like a range type character, but maybe he's not. But I think that is kind of an interesting design space in these games, and like I feel like even in like we've always had Link, who's like more of a range character, I guess,
Yeah.
in Smash. But I feel like it wasn't until like Mega Man and Smash 4 that we got like, oh, this character, the majority of his moves are ranged, and that's like such a different play style than I'm used to. So yeah, I
See,
wonder if
like,
it'll be something like that.
When I think of Agent Smith, I actually see him more of a melee fighter.
Okay.
And,
I thought he'd be like using his gun or something.
he uses a
but-
gun a lot.
Okay.
I feel like I guess the main quality that they give them is that they're just so fast. So like he's able to like dodge bullets and whatnot. So like
Okay.
maybe like a super almost Sonic like level of like speed of a character
Damn.
could be interesting.
My God. Who is this
Yeah.
guy? I don't even
I
know
know
who
he's
this
Agent
guy
Smith.
is.
Yeah, he is the
That's
Matrix.
crazy.
So yeah.
Amazing. Cool. Yeah. Do you think are you gonna jump back in with me? Are you gonna be playing it all? In this,
Oh, definitely. I'm
okay,
definitely
cool.
going to be jumping in again. I mean, it's free to play. It's easy to jump
Yes,
into,
true.
and like, yeah, the new characters is exciting. But I'm also just excited to play like Tom the Cat again. I got him tattooed on my leg. I got to represent my
Yeah.
my character. And Iron Giant, that's one I never got to play, so I'm looking forward to that as
Yeah,
well.
he was really cool. He's just such a unique character for a platform fighter. So I really enjoyed him. Yeah.
And then I forgot to kind of talk on the PvE element as well
yeah.
to it. I saw on the article they're mentioning like certain like thematic type PvE levels, I guess, like whether it's Batman and Velma, I think was the pairing that they had mentioned in there, and like seeing who's the greatest detective or whatnot. Like
okay.
just those things are
That's
pretty
fun.
fun, especially when they're breaking the multiverse and like putting certain characters together that you wouldn't picture. I think that stuff will be really fun to experience as well.
Very nice. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, that's out today if you're listening to this. So yeah, I don't know when we'll talk about on Sidequest. Might be a couple weeks just because next week's kind of all about Hellblade. But yeah, tune in. We will be talking about that stuff. I think that's all for today, Kirkland. This is a fun episode, very random set of topics. A couple of good tangents in there with
Some
Elder Scrolls
reminiscing,
travels
looking back
and
on the
memory
old
cards.
memory
Yeah.
cards. Yeah.
That was a good time. Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you again next time. Bye-bye.